So I have the incredible Laura McConnell. So we're
Hi.
doing we're doing a podcast swap. So I was on her podcast and now we have her. I'm so grateful. You are my second guest.
Yay.
Yeah, sorry you couldn't be number one. You were number two, but you're always number one in my book.
You're hilarious. I love
Um,
it.
yeah, but I am just so excited for people to hear your message, talk about your magic, and we just before we even got on this podcast, we were talking about crystals and sound healing. So we're just gonna jam out on that today. Whatever.
We started out with a bang.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us a little bit more about. I know it's hard to condense all into one podcast, but a little bit about you, your magic, maybe a little bit about your ascension journey and what brought you to Laura McConnell present day.
Yeah. Okay. So, what was the first question? I'm dyslexic, so I literally just flipped all of this.
No, it's fine. Just whatever flows organically for you, like what prompted your spiritual journey, anything that you want to highlight about, like
Yeah.
what brought you to today. That's what I'm
Yeah.
curious about.
Oh, um, it, so my ascension journey, I feel like I've constantly been awake and, awakening more and more throughout my life. But I will say there was like a moment in time where things took a very quick shift. And it was when I hit a really dark point in my health. I had been chronically sick for over 10 years, but it had been like progressing, and I finally got to this place where I couldn't get out of bed for several months straight, and I wasn't able to cook for myself. I was barely able to make it to work. I was about to go home and be taken care of by my parents and go through a Lyme disease treatment because they thought that I had Lyme, which was really only, the only thing that made sense was Lyme, because Lyme is constantly changing and morphing into other things. And that's how my health issues have been throughout my life. It's like they attack one thing and then it morphs into something else. But come to find out, I don't have that. Whatever that journey was there to serve me in that time, it helped me get in tune with my physical body because I was in fight or flight mode all the time. I was constantly in the masculine energy. I had no idea how to rest and be in my feminine and surrender and receive.
Yeah.
And so I ran myself into the ground and found myself having to surrender because my physical body couldn't get out of bed.
Yeah.
And through that process, Spirit started showing me different crystals and things to put on my body. And this was before I knew anything about crystals. I genuinely had no idea about like the spiritual world on like sage and all these things, but I kept having these visions of me doing these things. And so I was like, let me check it out and see if it's something that will help me tune into my body. So I bought some crystals and put them on my chakra points before I knew what chakras were, and just intuitively did that. I started putting my hands and like releasing energy out of my hands on different parts of my body and
Yeah.
feeling emotions and pain come up. Didn't know anything about that. Started buying sage. Like everything was so intuitively led.
Yeah.
And it started me down this journey of going, okay, these things are coming through. What do they mean? What are they here to actually support me do? Because I don't know the science or, the power behind them, except for my intuition is leading me in that direction. So I kind of dove in deep in that period of time where I was resting a lot and podcast binged all kinds of stuff. And I had a friend at the time who we were just waking up at the same time to a whole new level and getting out of the matrix, getting out of the box. We grew up in religion and we were steeped in Christianity. And so our only worldview, our only perception of life was through that box of church and
Yeah.
Christianity. And it was very limiting. And I found myself always feeling not good enough, always coming up short for God, always begging God to, bless me, and never feeling, yeah, like at the root of it was feeling not good enough,
Yeah.
feeling broken. And I really believe that those deep-seated subconscious beliefs were what drove my sickness year after year, because I was trying to prove all the time that I was worthy of love, I was worthy of connection, I was worthy of blessing, instead of learning how to be in my feminine and truly believing that I'm worthy because of just my presence and who I am.
Yeah.
I was in a constant state of proving myself. So all of that to say, the health stuff really woke me up to this ascension, awakening journey of following my intuition, getting out of Christianity in this box of being told how to live, being told how to go by all of these laws, and finding out for myself what felt authentic for me.
Right. Exactly. I love the way that you described it, because it's really so much of a flow of awakening and allowing your true essence to come through. Because like you said, and there's no coincidence that we're on this podcast, that you and I connected, because I have a similar story, except mine was with eating disorders and anxiety and depression, but it still woke me up. And I feel like sometimes that's, God uses that channel, right? So our health, to wake us up to our divine purpose and to break us out of that 3D matrix of, and we're going to dive into that today, which I really am passionate about, because a lot of society, and I think maybe for a lot of individuals, this COVID-19 woke people up, and it's helping us to dismantle this 3D realm of the physical and how we were programmed and what we were fed. So we have very similar stories, but just different details. So it's interesting just to hear other people's stories and how they come to awaken. And you kind of said it in the beginning, right? It's a constant evolution, and there was probably like mini awakenings, or however we want to phrase it, but it's like that constant peeling back and coming back to your soul. And it, for you, I almost feel like you were probably a healer in another lifetime.
Oh, 100%. I've been a healer since a kid.
Yeah.
I would put my hands on people and do massage and energy work before I knew what energy work was.
Mm-hmm.
And people would constantly tell me that my hands were healing, my hands were healing. And I heard it my whole life. But it's funny how you go through those awakenings and then all of a sudden you actually like click into believing it. And then you look back and you're like, oh, I've been told that my whole life, but I hadn't embodied it. I hadn't decided that that's who I was. And so when you make that step into this is who I am, it's like, oh, but I've been doing it all along. I just realized it. But yeah, you're right. I've done healing in past lives.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I feel like we come onto this earth with that soul frequency. Like we carry that energy from past lifetimes, those gifts. So I think that, you know, for people listening, if you can kind of identify through our stories, you've probably had similar experiences, or things like maybe, you know, some people see angels and then they get scared because they're young and they don't know what it is. So they shut their intuition down. Like there's so many different experiences that we have as pure young souls that we're told like, oh, that's not acceptable. Or like for me, I was always taught to suppress my emotions and I was always very sensitive. So it really, like, those messages start early. And I think that the topic that we're really focusing on today, which is like breaking out of that 3D matrix, is so important for light workers, for people who are waking up, because we need to, like you said so beautifully, it's embodiment. It's like, I am worthy and I'm confident and this is what I'm meant to be doing out in the world, versus like the 3D, oh, like I need to, like with me, I was a pharmacist. Like I have to go to this job and I have to make this money. And we get stuck in these, I call them like grids, like the 3D grid. And it shows up in like, there's social aspects, there's money, there's, you know, your career. So it kind of pervades our whole life. And when we can learn how to break out of that, then I feel like that's when the ascension can unfold and we can go to those higher levels and be the example of divine co-creation in physical form. So it's that like heaven on earth bridge. So.
And I noticed the more that I got out of the box, the more synchronicity and flow in general. You notice if people are trying to understand what that grid looks like for me, an example of the grid is you know, everyone thinks the ideal dream is to get like a 9-to-5 job that pays a lot of money so that you can have a house and kids and a family and you vacation once a year. Like it's this, like, it's so confined to this one idea of living and experiencing, and you just keep playing out the same thing and looping it every year, where you're not evolving, you're not leaving room for flow. And like, maybe, you know, spirit tells you to go to the grocery store right now and you follow the lead instead of going, no, I have a schedule to keep to all the time. Like there's this difference in even interacting with the world when you're in that flow and you're in that synchronicity, instead of just locked into, this is what I do every day. I come home and I watch Netflix with my wife and I go to bed and I wake up and I go to work. And it's like, you're doing the same thing every day, and you can feel that there's not an evolution or an expansion or even joy in your life.
Right, right. So when you were talking just now, I pictured like a circle, right? So like I always talk about the vicious cycle of pain, like people are reliving these experiences. And I knew that just from like my eating disorder, like having the same cycle all the time. And then for me, it was the unavailable men that I kept attracting to heal my childhood wounds of like narcissistic abuse and abandonment and all of that. And it's when we become conscious of these patterns that are showing up in our external environment, we're able to go within and with the guide of a mentor or a coach or a healer, then be able to extract that out of the subconscious, because it holds an energetic charge. That's why we get triggered. It gets through our defense system and we get triggered emotionally. But whenever we can learn, you know, whether it's through havening or sound healing, whatever modality, when we can learn how to break through that 3D grid and see it from a different perspective, maybe with the help of someone else or from our higher self, it's so different, and the game has changed because you're living from a different lens. Like you said before, you know, you're seeing things differently. Mm-hmm. And that's what I always tell people, like Ascension 101, how I see it, 3D is like on the ground, right? And then say that you're going up a hill, like 4D is like you're climbing up the hill, you can see things a little bit clearer. 5D is like you're at the peak of the mountain and you can see it from a bird's eye view and you're like, oh my God, look at all those trees back there. I never saw that. So it's a different lens. It's a different perspective. So consciousness is not a place that like a physical place. It's a layer. It's a state of consciousness that we see the world through. So it's really having a different lens through the awakening experience, through allowing the trauma to come through and to release it. That's the way that I see it. So,
and I would even use the word awareness as something, because like the more I evolve, the more aware I become, and not just about myself. Like actually, I become less aware of myself in a self-critical way. The more I begin to heal, the more less aware I am of what I even look like physically, how I'm showing up, not in a, like, I don't care, but in a, I'm not obsessed with figuring out, is my hair great? Am I wearing the right outfit? Am I holding my body the right way? Like I become less aware of me and more aware of everything working together, the symphony of life. I become more aware of the trees and the energy coming off of them. I become more aware of the people that you just like, you know, you go out somewhere and you just become aware of the different conversations and the energy coming from them. And you just like feed off of that. Like, yes, like I love the love that's coming from that conversation, the gratitude, and you engage with them and you make friends with them because you're now becoming aware of energy rather than how someone looks.
Yeah. And that's exactly level. Yeah, that's so true, because the 3D is all about physical. So it's form. It's all about form. And as we ascend, like you said, you become more in tune with those higher frequencies and you become pulled to those, or, you know, drawn to those things. And as the particles get lighter, I'm such like a nerd about this, like things manifest quicker and you can literally, you're in the quantum. You're in the energetic space, which is 99% of everything anyway. So you're able to just, there's more flow, there's more synchronicity because it's not as dense. Like 3D is super dense, right?
Super dense.
Yeah. So, and I'm constantly in a state, I feel like I go from like upper 4D to 5D and then back. Like I'm not completely 5D where I'm like an enlightened being whatsoever, but just I think, and And another thing with this like 3, 4, and 5D, 3D is not something to escape from. It's something like, okay, this is serving a purpose. So if you're sitting there or you're listening to this and you're like, oh no, like I think I'm in 3D, it's like, don't judge yourself. It's okay. Everybody's waking up at a different pace. So, you know, if you're at 3D right now and you're listening to this conversation, please don't judge yourself, because I think we vacillate, right? There's all different things that can come up. Like I got triggered big time this past weekend with like an old wound, and it like pulled my energy down, and you have to be flexible to just like ride those waves and to be able to release and be like, okay, I'm grounded now. I can go back to my journey. But just really wanted to highlight that, because I think it's important for us to always remain like compassionate throughout this entire journey.
And we're still living on the 3D plane. So even as spiritual beings, we're waking up, there's so much value in the 3D. Like, you know, it's so fun. I think the 3D is great. I actually love it because I get to play up here in the higher realms, and then I get to manifest things physically in front of me. Whereas other beings on different planets that don't exist in this 3D realm, they don't even need physical things. Like they manifest things. It's different. They're on an energy frequency. They're living off of energy rather than on this 3D plane where they're manifesting things as physically as we do. And so for me, I look at it as a fun game. I'm like, this is the game of life. So as much as I want to be, you know, higher, you know, in 5D or above, even just higher dimensions, I still am on planet Earth and existing in this 3D until we all rise together and we're not on the 3D plane.
Yeah.
You know, I am there. So it's not a good or a bad thing. It's not like there's no, you know, you're more holy and worthy if you're on 5D than 3D.
Exactly.
Like we're all existing on all realms. But the beauty of evolving to higher dimensions is we get a greater perspective of ourselves and others that helps us connect to love on an unconditional level. That's really the purpose behind, in my own, you know, opinion, that's why you want to evolve. It's not because 3D is bad. It's because when you get into these higher dimensions, you become less aware, self-conscious, you become less judgmental and critical. You start to see things from, we're all one. Like what I do to you, do to me. The work that you do for yourself, you do for me. And that kind of consciousness allows you to feel supported in all of life, so that as you are living on the 3D plane, you're not feeling like an orphan. You're not feeling like you're all on your own or like life is against you. You're feeling like we're all connected and we're all doing this together. And that sense of community and love is what makes life fun. It's what makes it, why we want to be here, essentially. It's because we want to be in that state of love and receiving love and giving love. So that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I love that perspective. I see it. I've read, I think her name was Sarah Reber. It's called Raise Your Vibration. Really good book. And she talks about it's like 5D is Christ consciousness, and it's coming down into the physical body, so that there's that merge point of just seeing life
heaven to earth.
Yeah, exactly.
Heaven to earth.
I love it. So tell me a little bit more about, like, in the same vein, how, like, what is your magic and how do you help women with like the sound healing? And it seems like your business is very intuitive. So tell me like how that relates to the 5D and like how you help people with ascension.
Yeah. As soon as you started talking about it, like I got emotional because I'm like, I love what I do. And I love that I came here to hold space for people. And it's not just women. I do work with men as well, which it's funny. I actually attract a lot of men to do this work, but you're right in that my business is very intuitive. And I do a lot of different things, and I cannot be put in a box. We're talking about getting out of the box, and that is the truth of my life. I had a conversation with someone yesterday where I was telling her I've always felt like spirit has come to me and consistently been like, your presence is enough. Your presence is enough. Like, and we all need to know that on a, deep subconscious level, that we are enough.
Yeah.
The service that I provide is my energy. And when I walk into a room, I'm like a tuning fork. I harmonize the frequencies, and I read energy really well. So I'll walk into a room and I'll see what needs to take place, and I will go to that and fix that. I'll tune that frequency. Oh, that person's feeling left out and there's a group of people. That's the person we want to involve. We want to bring in. Oh, this, there's a lack of stability and security in this meeting or in this environment. So I'm going to bring that piece, or I'm going to call on the person that actually has that within them, that they don't feel like they have permission to step into it. So I just read the energies, I read people, and I pinpoint very things that they need for that moment. So it's not like I just do energy work. It's not like I just do sound healing, which I love to do. I have lots of different sound bowls, and I have a gong and drums and tuning forks, and I have just this beautiful temple that the sound in it is so incredible, and people come in and they always receive healing when I do these sound baths with them and energy work. But more than that, it's those moments of them sitting with me and I'm holding that space of security and love, and they naturally just start like word vomiting in the most beautiful way. There's space held for them because we're all sovereign beings. So when someone is sitting and holding a mirror up to our face, we will feel what is inside that we haven't been looking at or haven't been processing, and it will naturally want to come out because we are created to be constantly evolving. So when you come into someone's presence that feels safe and secure, you naturally want to purge. So that's what I would say that I do is, yes, I do energy work. Yes, I do sound healing. Yes, I do life coaching, and I love emotional health. I love helping people work through the logical aspects of the cycles in their life. But I also hold so much space for whatever needs to come through. And I'm very spirit led and channeling what needs to come through, and will speak like, this is what's happening. This is what needs to be fixed. This is where you're headed. So yeah, it can't be contained, but it is very expansive, and the heart of it is freedom, unconditional love, and empowerment. So
you spoke about that, the freedom.
I work really hard to create within myself a standard of unconditional love, a focus on freedom, and freedom looks like not turning away from pain that's coming up. So looking at it, feeling it, experiencing it, sitting with it, moving through it. And when you can look at a situation with not an emotional or, like a ping inside your system, you have true freedom in it because you become non-attached from it. So that freedom, and then that self-empowerment, my whole goal with everyone that I work with is to unlock their own sovereign power, their own voice within. And what I'm really being drawn to right now is working with healers that are doing the work. So it's people that are already, Reiki healers, they're already, whatever their gift is. And it could even be on the 3D plane, they could be in a job. But if you're already doing the work and helping people, that's the people that generally come to me, and I help them get to that next level where they feel like they've been, climbing that mountain, but they feel like they're in the middle of the mountain. They can't get to the top. I help them get to that next step to get on top of things and have a greater perspective.
Wow. I love how you described and you used the word expansive, because that was like feminine, divine feminine automatically. And it's so interesting. You and I have such similar, stories, and I'm the same way, except the tools are a little bit different, but it's the same concept. Like, I can feel someone's energy. I can feel like what's blocked. Usually I'm like, hey, are your shoulders heavy right now? And they're like, yes. And a lot of people will be like, how do you know me so well? And I'm just like, I pick up on your energy. I was talking about this yesterday, how sound is a vibration. You can hear in someone's tone and the words that they use. And it's really the energy. And I think that as you evolve and you can listen to your own guidance, you might be able to help other people through their guides and being like, oh, okay, this is what needs to shift right now. And I think that that is the most beautiful medicine you can give anybody, because it's not just like, oh, I do this one thing and I'm going to keep doing it no matter who the person is in front of me. It's like, and I love how you said like holding space. That's really what it is, because the 5D to me is like that divine parent, right? So like with me, I had a narcissistic father, totally, you know, like not aware, not open to any type of this conversation. And so I had to reparent and go into, I call it like the God perspective, and hold the parts of me that felt unworthy or didn't want to feel into the pain of rejection or whatever that is. So there are ways that we can call that in, and you know, it's beautiful to have an actual person to do that, to be the space holder for us, and to be there as a witness. I feel like a lot of the times we've felt invalidated, and I know this is true for me, invalidated for who we were, or like shameful because we have, especially, you know, spiritual gifts are I mean, they're gifts, but not everybody sees them that way. So it's like all of these different elements, and holding space is beautiful to help purge, like you said, and release a lot of those lower densities that are holding us back from ascending. So I love that.
So true. I love it. And I love your expression of that. The way that you talk, there's so much authenticity coming through and so much power. I just was like sitting here being like, I just love her. I love your energy. I love who you are. And we're all mirrors to one another. So what you see in someone else that you want or you love is really just showing you who you are and what you have.
Exactly. So read my energy. What do I say?
I actually went into it for a moment and pulled myself back out, because I was like, no, we're in a conversation. I could go into reading it, but that's not the thing. But what I will say, which is what I highlighted, was the light and the joy that's coming from you, the lightheartedness, like all this, you're talking about like the 3D being low density, like heavier. And I can literally feel like your aura is so expansive and open and free. And I can see it growing even from the last conversation that we had. I feel like you're in such you're in harmonic resonance with yourself.
I'll take that.
And that is where we want to be. And when we don't feel that harmonic resonance, and we all know, especially women, can really tune in and feel that like something's not right. You know how we have that like gut feeling, like something's not right. Something is not in harmonic resonance with us. And what I feel like for you is you've been doing a lot of the clearing away, a lot of the, you know, there's been a lot of resolution taking place, a lot of full circle work that you're doing right now. And I can feel you in this, not that you've arrived, because no one ever does. But what I see is you've cleared out a lot of those cycles and a lot of those places that have held almost just, it's just held fear of showing up, fear of being you, fear of having your voice. And I can see that there's just more of that rooted security, your root chakra. Like it's been diving deeper in this season, which I think is the opportunity for everyone. I personally live right now in Mount Shasta, California, at the root chakra of the earth. And I cannot tell you how much that pulls up inside of me constantly, because the energy of the world starts here. And what comes through this mountain goes out to all of the other places on the earth.
Wow.
And so a lot of the work that I do, which is, I just tie this in, the sound temple that I work at overlooks Mount Shasta. So as I'm doing this work, I'm intentionally doing the work in releasing whatever this person's going through and sending that freedom out into all of the earth, because I know that it all starts here. And that's the point. Like the point is to ascend, to evolve, to expand into greater love and freedom. And so everything that I do is so much more bigger than I could even, physically touch, because I know that I'm doing it by the root chakra. So that energy is feeding into it and then blasting out. So anyways, I'm feeling that for you, that this season, this time of all of this COVID, it's really opened up an invitation for you to dive deeper into rooting and grounding yourself in a sense of security within who you are, not based on your job, your relationships, your family, or anything else, but within yourself, that rooted confidence in who you are.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And I mean, we could go into this forever, but I just went home, and I grew up with a narcissistic father. So he actually triggered something in me. And I know that it's something in my emotional body that hasn't healed yet. So I was like, oh my God, like it was so deep. And I just had to, I drove home from Long Island about 7.5 hours, and I was crying, and I was just like letting it all out. And there's been other triggers too, just throughout, like you said, COVID. So you're very perceptive to pick that up, just like deeply rooted things that have come up to be shed. And so.
And the word for you, the reason you resonated with the word expansive or expansion is because that's what you're in right now. That is your word. You're in this state of expansion. And in order for us, and let's go back to the feminine, the way it's wired is we have to go within and go deep and then come back up and out. So our bodies, we have a vagina. So we go within, right? We receive the man and we go within. And it's that expression to go within and then let our expression out. And that's what I'm seeing for you is this expansion is when you start to see it in the 3D, you first do it internally. So I see you going within and deeply rooting yourself, and then it's coming back up and out, and it's now transforming with your relationships, with your clients, with your opportunities. Like it's an expansion on a great level, but it's first starting with you. And that's where you're at right now is you're expanding within so that it can expand around you to touch more people, to hold more space, to be that light worker that you are on a greater platform to help people.
Oh my goodness. How old are you? You're like an old sage. You're like, and this is what's happening. And I'm like, yes.
Well, I have lived many lifetimes. I had a conversation with someone yesterday about that. And we both said that people have always thought that we were so much older than we are, because we are.
Yeah.
We are.
Old soul. # old soul.
Yep. And you are an old soul as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I just really honor your gift of just such clear channeling. It's incredible to witness.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And thank you for being open. And that's all I ever ask for from anyone coming to receive work, whether they come to you to work through things, whether they come to me, someone else, it doesn't matter. All that I ever ask is that someone is just open and receptive to receiving, because I know that even when I go get work done, the more open and receptive I am to receiving, the more that actually comes through.
Yeah.
But where we're in resistance and fear and we're like, I don't want to look at it, I don't want to know, then it makes it harder to receive. To access. And I think we even had that conversation, you and I, you were saying, just keep an open mind, like be open, because when you are, things come through a lot easier, and people can go a lot farther in hypnosis work when they don't have so much of their logic be accessed. Well,
so yeah, absolutely. If I had a dime for every time I said that, because I feel like, and I think, you actually just made me think of something like maybe, and a practice that I could do is like helping people even before they get into hypnosis, anchoring into their heart, because I think that that's so important to get out of the mind into the body, having that practice set in and anchored in first. And then I think we talked about that even.
Yeah.
You were saying that, and I was like, that would be something that we would do. So, but everybody's so different, and that's the beauty of our work, right? Meeting people where they're at, and being that loving space holder, which, you are. And I just really encourage everybody listening to go check Laura's Instagram, Facebook, whatever. I'll let you kind of say where people can connect with you.
Yeah, of course. I primarily show up on Instagram. I do have a Facebook, Laura McConnell. My Instagram is Laura BMC. So that's LAURA, B as in boy, MC. And a lot of my work is on there. You can reach out to me if you want to have a conversation about the work that I do. And you can email me at laurabethconsulting4@gmail.com. So those are the ways that you can reach me at this time.
And I'll put that in the show notes as well so that you guys can reach out. Maybe we'll have you back for part 2 because I feel like there's more, like we could unpack so much, but this was such a great appetizer, we'll call it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm honored to be on your podcast and loved that when you came onto ours, and I'm so grateful for your expression and so grateful for your devotion to the work for yourself and showing up as a woman and embodying that feminine energy. We need that. That's where we're evolving, ladies. We're evolving into the divine feminine, where we don't have to go into the masculine to be a woman. We can be in the divine feminine and the surrender and the flow and the strength of that. So I'm excited to see everything that's expanding in your world right now.
Thank you so much. You have no idea how much that means to me, just having you be a witness to that. And I just appreciate you so much.
Same. So. Thank you.
All right. Well, everybody, make sure you reach out to Laura, and we will see you on the next episode.